Well, obviously, Lloyd, the fact that my father passed away the day before my 10th birthday, I was raised by my mom, my grandmother, and my two sisters, a lot of females. So my avenue to go out and to have fun was to go out through sports, whether it be football, basketball, baseball. I tried to stay active as much as I could. So that was the biggest thing, and it started in Little League and Biddy basketball. And that was, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I wanted to go outside and have as much fun as I could. And my sisters would catch balls. I would throw baseballs to them or throw footballs to them, or they would pitch to me. My mom did, my grandmother didn't, but so the very much female influence, I wanted to go out and try sports. I think the biggest thing in sports that I've been able to enjoy the most is, number one, the friendships and the relationships that I've been fortunate enough to be involved in. And 40 some odd years of coaching, the friendships that I've had through the coaches that I've worked with, the players that I've worked with, the administrators I've worked with, and then the relationships. Because when you're at a university for 4 years or you recruit somebody, you're there you're responsible not only for their on the field, but their off the field activities. The fact that you want to make sure that they have an opportunity to get their degree. When you're coaching pro athletes, biggest thing is trying to give them the opportunity to be the best football player, basketball player that they can be for their livelihood and their family. So I think the friendships, the relationships, now after 44 years, I can call people that I coached with 25, 30 years ago, and they would do anything for me, and I would do the same for them. So I think those are the two most important things. And one thing that I learned through coaching is if you have solid relationships and friendships, then you'll have a chance for a championship because of those two things. Well, number one, I want to thank the committee that selected me, but it's more than that. I think it starts with my family, my mom who helped raise me and obviously raised me, my grandmother because of the passing of my father at such a young age, my two sisters, many other people, Mr. Curley, Mr. Suey, because they became, father figures to me. My mom, my sisters had to drive me to practice, to football practice, pick me up from basketball, from baseball. They were very influential. And then, the many coaches that I had the opportunity to be around. Obviously Jim Williams was somebody that I've taken a lot of core values from in my coaching, from the term that we always remember, knock them into nickel seats. The guys that I played with, we always remember that. Ron Ferris, who coached me in basketball, Ted Kemmer, who coached me in basketball, Bob Smith. There's so many, and I'm forgetting people, but I think many of my core values that I've taken in my coaching career, I learned here in this area, not only from the coaches at State College, but the coaches that I was exposed to, like Donnie Robinson, and Denny Leathers, and many other people here, because it was important to me as I went on to become a coach. Well, number one, this is my hometown. This is my area, and it's a special place. Flying in here yesterday as we flew in, the beauty of the place, the tradition, and the people. It's the people. And driving here to Bald Eagle High School, this is the first I've been back here probably since I played high school and played baseball down here in American Legion. It's the people. I had a conversation with Barry Parkhill about 6 weeks ago, who's also in the Hall of Fame. And I asked him, I said, how was it? And he said, Arch, the biggest thing is you appreciate the people that are in that area when we grew up. And I think that's very true. They're blue-collar, hard-working people who take great pride in their families, their high schools, their traditions. And I think the one thing is respect what people have done in the past. And in all this area, I have tremendous respect, not only for Penn State, but the high schools here, the teachers, the coaches that were so important to me, that now, as I've gone on and had some success, I can look back now and thank the people here for allowing me to grow up here.
Mike Archer grew up in State College as a very versatile athlete. In his senior year in football, the talented quarterback led the Little Lions to the conference championship. Arch was named All-Central Counties and All-State First Team, receiving an honorable mention on the All-American team. In basketball, his team was the conference champions, and he was named to the Conference All-Star team. Arch followed that up, being named All-Central Counties in baseball as well. Mike was recruited by the University of Miami and played mostly as a free safety and punter. He graduated in 1976 and was named the School of Education's Scholar Athlete of the Year. Arch joined the Miami coaching staff under Lou Saban as a graduate assistant for 2 years, obtaining an MA degree while coaching. Then in 1979, things really changed at Miami. Howard Schnellenberger was hired as head coach, and Mike was named the defensive backs coach. Miami took huge strides down the improvement path, and in 1983, the Hurricanes defeated number 1 Nebraska in the Orange Bowl to finish at 11-1 and were crowned the national champions. In 1984, Schnellenberger moved on to Louisville, and Arch moved on to Louisiana State University as defensive back coach under Bill Arnsparger. He was the defensive coordinator for 2 seasons. Arnsparger left in 1987, and at age 34, Mike Archer was named as the head coach of the LSU Tigers, becoming the youngest Division I head coach in the country. Arch was ready, as his 1987 squad posted a 10-1-1 record, capped by a win in the Gator Bowl, the SEC Championship, and a number 7 national ranking. Arch led the Tigers for 3 more seasons and is remembered for the earthquake game in 1988. In front of an enthusiastic and noisy crowd of over 79,000 at Tiger Stadium, LSU upset number 4 Auburn 7-6. The name arose from the crowd's reaction following the final pass. It registered as an earthquake by a seismograph in LSU's Geoscience complex near the stadium. Mike Archer finished his career record at LSU with a 27-18-1 record and 2 SEC championships. Mike then coached the linebackers for Coach George Welch at the University of Virginia for a year, then on to the University of Kentucky and Coach Bill Curry for 2 seasons. Mike made the leap into professional football in 1996, joining the Pittsburgh Steelers and Coach Bill Cowher as the linebacker coach. In Arch's 7 years with the Steelers, the team had 5 playoff appearances, and Arch participated in 2 Pro Bowls and coached 8 Pro Bowl players. After leaving the Steelers from 2003 through 2015, Arch had various defensive and associate head coach duties at the University of Kentucky, North Carolina State, and the University of Virginia. He took a year off in 2016, then returned to the pro ranks with the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League. In 2017, the Argonauts won the CFL championship, the Grey Cup. Mike stayed with the Argonauts 1 more year before retiring. But retirement did not last long. Arch is signed to be the linebacker coach in the new XFL Spring League Tampa Bay team for the 2020 season. Arch and his wife Barbara live in Cary, North Carolina, and have 2 children, Jeff and Betsy. Welcome back home, Mike Archer. Now come forward to accept your induction into the Centre County Hall of Fame.
My father, Denny Barkman, taught me at the age of 6 to swim with my face in the water, no dog paddle, and big arms at Martin's Dam Swim Club outside of Philadelphia. From the start, my dad and my mom both insisted that I have fun with whatever I was doing, whether it was in an athletic event or at school. And he had the determination that I think I received to just be the best that I could be always. And we went to swimming practice, and that's just the beginning. My dad was a track athlete, but he was competitive and had the attitude of just always doing the best he could, and transferred that to myself and my sisters. The thing that has given me the most satisfaction is having made friends up to 50 years ago in the sport, coaches and swimmers alike, with whom I can still have fun. Seems like our friendship never faded and we have a lot in common. So I can tell you that we have reunions every 4 years of the Olympic team and no one misses. Everyone goes. So I think the friendships I've made, along with the places I got to travel, New Zealand, China, all over the world, have given me the most satisfaction. First of all, I've got to thank Bruce Parkhill, who nominated me. I didn't expect this honor, and I would like to publicly thank him. Then my parents, Denny and Lil Barkman, who really supported me through love and guidance all those years of swimming. Of course, my family and friends. And I had 4 coaches who taught me much more than just what winning was about, being the best I could and being a good sport. And that was Bob Fitzgerald, Bill Taylor, both of whom have passed now, and Mary Kelly, who was an Olympian herself, and George Breen. Both of those coaches got me towards this, helped me make the 68 and the 72 team. But here I've got lots of family and friends that have supported me too since those Olympic years. Thank them too. It's still kind of a shock and somewhat of a dream because of my Olympic experiences so many years ago. To be honored today is, I can't really put it into words, but I just want to thank everyone for including me among the incredible group of inductees and former people that are in the Hall of Fame. It's a great honor to be in that group, and I know that my parents are watching over and proud, and if I can do anything to let them know how much I appreciate it, this is a way to thank them and thank all of you at the same time. I think that it's very important to me to have this honor, but also for people to know how much I've appreciated all that they've done for me, not just in swimming, but in the classroom. I've been lucky enough to be in a school district for a number of years and have made so many friends, not just with swimming, but with teaching in this area, and some of whom are here today for this honor.
Janie Barkman Brown graduated in 1969 from Radnor High School in suburban Philadelphia. Janie represented the United States as a 17-year-old at the 1968 Summer Olympics in Mexico City. She won a gold medal as a member of the winning U.S. team in the women's 4x100-meter freestyle relay, together with teammates Linda Gustafson, Sue Peterson, and Jan Henne. She and her relay teammates set a new Olympic record of 4 minutes, 2.5 seconds in the event final. Individually, she also received a bronze medal for her third-place performance in the women's 200-meter freestyle. Janie finished behind Debbie Meyer and Jan Henne, completing an American sweep of the event. Janie also won 3 AAU national championships. The first was the 200-yard individual medley in 1965 when she was age 14. Then, in 1968, she won 2 more, the 100-yard freestyle and later in the year the 100-meter freestyle. That same year, Janie was the feature on the cover of Swimming World magazine. After high school, Janie attended Salem College in North Carolina from 1970 until graduation in 1974, having taken time off to train for the 1972 Olympics. While at Salem, she trained under coach Leo Ellison and the men's swim team at nearby Wake Forest University. She graduated from Salem with a psychology degree and an early elementary teaching certificate. At the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, Germany, she was part of the U.S. team that won the gold medal in the women's 4x100-meter freestyle relay, including Sandy Nielsen, Jenny Kemp, and Shirley Babashoff. In that race, the American ladies set a new world record of 3 minutes 55.19 seconds in the finals, narrowly edging the East German team. Janie served as a tri-captain of the 1972 team and was a torchbearer, carrying the torch en route to the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games. Aside from 2 gold medals and a bronze, The Olympics gave Janie Barkman Brown something else, a lifelong commitment to swimming. She became the head women's coach at Princeton University and also coached at Tennessee, Old Dominion, Penn State from 1984 to 1994, and as a volunteer at Brown. She coached the State College area swim team for 20 years, and most recently, in addition to her regular job as an elementary school teacher, she teaches swimming to all ages, as well as works with Paralympic athletes at the invitation of her friend Terry Jordan, the Penn State athletics coach and disability rec program coordinator. In February of 2019, Janie Barkman Brown was one of the 6 people inducted as part of the inaugural class of the Salem Academy and College Athletic Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is intended to honor exemplary former student athletes, administrators, and others who've been integral in the school's athletics program. Janie is probably one of the best individuals to exemplify those characteristics. Janie is the mother of 2 sons and a daughter, Dan, Chris, and Jennifer. She resides in State College. Thank you for representing our country so well in 2 separate Olympic Games, and for your continued service to your chosen sport after achieving those honors. Welcome, Janie Barkman Brown, to the Centre County Hall of Fame.
When I was a very young person, elementary school, a young man came down recruiting wrestlers, had a lot of enthusiasm coming out of his eyes and got me hooked on it. His name was Joe Humphreys. We rolled out the mats for a week. He taught us basics. We wrestled among ourselves for the tournaments. And that's how I got my start. It was very simple, sweet, and it very, got me hooked on the sport. Well, I went on to junior high school, had a very successful junior high program. I won the first Bellefonte, I don't know if it was the first Bellefonte tournament, but my first tournament I won was the Bellefonte tournament, Christmas tournament. And the following year I won it again. Then I won the Junior Olympics my 8th and 9th grade year, and those in my junior high program. Actually, I only had lost two matches in my junior high career. The most satisfaction I really had was I was so successful at my sport. That really makes it enjoyable, and I think build upon success. The number 2, the thing I really appreciate was the contacts and the people I've met through the years doing the sport and after post-sport things that remembers the old good times that we talked about. And the third most important thing that I really, and it just came to light from a classmate of mine a few months ago, is actually how many people I influenced and didn't really realize that I influenced them in the way that I did. Everybody that's talked to me, it's all been positive, thank goodness. So, but that's how I look at it and how I look at my career, the 3 most important things that's important to me. I'd like to thank Mr. Dick Rhodes for that. He's again another young man that came into my life my 10th grade year in high school after Joe Humphreys left the school district, and he took over where Joe left off. Had that gleam in his eye, kept you interested, kept you motivated to do what you could do and become a better person from it. So I want to thank Mr. Rhodes for all his help throughout the years. Dick made me the bet that if I won states that he'd milk cows for a week for me. Actually, him and Gowan Stoker both did that. They both did it for a week. Dick ended up paying his bet. I think I will have a picture showing Dick in beside a cow, whether he still knows how to do it or not, but we'll definitely have a picture available for him. To be associated with all these men and women of this skill set and what they have accomplished in life. It's just unbelievable feeling to be associated with these people. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. The local boys, I think, are very overlooked very much. I think a lot of your local good talent are local boys. They just need inspiration and the right guidance to develop their potential and their talent. And I was fortunate enough to have Mr. Humphreys and Mr. Rhodes in my life to get me motivated and get me moving. If me being inducted and being at the top of my sport like this influences people, say, to try to be like me, I hope I have done some good.
Alan Fisher graduated from Bald Eagle area in 1973. He began wrestling in the 1 week-long elementary program that Hall of Famer Joe Humphreys had started to create an interest that would stick with the boys through the varsity level and to improve the wrestling program at BEA. Suffice it to say, the interest stuck with Al Fisher. He starred in junior high for 3 years. At the end of the season, he competed in the Pennsylvania Junior Wrestling Championships, referred to as the Junior Olympics in those days. Al won state championship in his 8th and 9th grade years. In 10th grade, Alan moved to the varsity, and another Hall of Fame coach, Dick Rhodes. Al was an instant star and a well-known name throughout District 6 and across Pennsylvania. In his varsity career at BEA, Alan was undefeated in dual meets at 31-0. Al's overall career record was 62 wins and 2 losses. Both losses occurred in the regional finals as a sophomore and a junior. 46 years later, his career winning percentage of 96.9% still stands at the top of the list for all the great wrestlers who have graced the mat at BEA. Al won the tough Bald Eagle Nittany Tournament as a sophomore and was 2-time champ in the Mannheim Holiday Tournament as a junior and senior. He was 3-time sectional champ and 3-time District 6 champ, where he was twice named as the most outstanding wrestler. He was a 2-time Northwest Regional runner-up, then the champion as a senior, as well as the PIAA state champion at 145 pounds in 1973. Those who saw Allen's 18-7 victory in the state finals witnessed a takedown clinic featuring Allen's patented duck under. With each successive duck under, the crowd would simultaneously vocalize, "Ooh!" as Al would set up the move so well, then hit it with such speed and athletic grace, it made everyone in the Farm Show Arena gasp. After winning states, Al collected on a promise. Coach Dick Rhodes had promised Al that if he won states, he would come to the Fisher farm every morning for a week and do the morning milking. Coach Rhodes stood behind that promise, much to the delight of Al and his family. Allen excelled in more than wrestling in high school. He was a tough running back on the football team, and he won the prestigious Jim Snyder Award in 1973. And he achieved recognition by the National Interscholastic Honor Roll with a grade average of 97.7 in his senior year. After high school, Allen was recruited by Penn State University. As a Nittany Lion, he was plagued with a series of leg injuries. With running the family farm in his plans, Allen knew he needed his legs working to full ability. So in 1975, he retired from wrestling. He continued his studies at Penn State, achieving a BS degree in agricultural education, graduating in 1977. Allen was a member of the inaugural class of the BEA Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1985, and he was inducted into the District 6 Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame in 2002. He and Kathy reside near Milesburg, where he's the owner-operator of the family dairy farm. Allen has 2 children, Eric and Christy. Congratulations, Alan Fisher, and thank you for the great years on the mat at BEA and for all the great memories of your wrestling skill. Welcome now into the Center County Hall of Fame.
Back in the mid-1950s, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, and I was really enamored by that. I really thought thought it was great. In fact, so much so that I measured the length of my bedroom, which is the length of the attic in our house. And at that time, I ran my first mile. Like, it took me over 25 minutes to do it, but I was really with that. And then once I got into junior high, I wanted to go out for a sport. I first went out for wrestling in 7th grade, and I was 0-8 and pinned 7 times. So in 8th grade, I decided I would go out for basketball, and I was on the 8th string, and they only had 3 players on it, so I couldn't do that. But I noticed that every time I did conditioning, I was able to be right at the front. So when my family came back, my dad was on sabbatical. I was in Mexico City for my freshman year. I came back, and my sophomore year I started cross country in the fall, and I became really loved the sport, and I enjoy running. Actually, in track and field and cross country distance running, I had 3 different levels. I was first an athlete and enjoyed that and very much, multiple state champion and very successful. Also, I was good enough to get a scholarship to Penn State, so it paid for my college degree. So that was very successful. And then after that, I went on to be a teacher and a coach. And I was an assistant coach for some 9 years, 6 with the men, 3 with the women, and then 21 years as a head girls coach. And that was extremely rewarding. Probably of all the 3 phases of a runner, runner, athlete, a coach, or an official, that was probably the most satisfying, the coaching part of it. And then finally, after I retired, my wife and I and a friend, Greg Fredericks, were in charge of the officials for Penn State for 7 years. And that was also very gratifying. In fact, probably one of the satisfying parts was when after we won 3 state championships in a row in cross country, the next year I had some great girls, but they weren't as talented athletically, and they finished 3rd. And Harry Grove sent me a little note saying, you know, it's one thing to have the thoroughbreds, but when you have, and he was rather colorful with what he said, and I won't say it, you know, when you can get a 3rd place with them, that shows that you really are a coach. Well, I particularly thank Ron Pavlichko because of his interest in track and field and his nominating me, and I have to, and also being my athletic director for many of those years that I coached. Also would like to thank, believe it or not, way back to Yib Bolton, who was athletic director way back, and then after that, Tom Wallace. Those 3 athletic directors were fantastic. I also have to thank so much my assistant coaches. Particularly Hubie White and Hannah Humphreys and Julie Giddings and Sue Marshall and Ryan Long. It just goes on and on. There were a lot of really good people there. But most of all, I think the person that influenced and helped me the most was my wife. All right, Carol, particularly when I was coaching females, that she had a wonderful perspective that she could give me. I remember the first time I came home and I said the girls were crying, and she said, Steve, the girls cry when they win, they cry when they lose, they just cry. She said, you know, boys will swear and kick a hurdle, but the girls cry and just get used to it. And I think that was a real lesson for me. I really see myself as representing all of track and field in Centre County. There's a tremendous history and culture that's here. The running community is fantastic. I'd have to also particularly thank Terry Loesch and Rapid Transit for all his support that he's done for so many athletes over this time. It means a lot to me in that I think that this is the beginning of recognition of the great history we have and culture we have with track and field, and in particular distance running.
Steve Gentry was born in Michigan in 1947. Then his family moved to State College in 1952. Though not apparent then, that was a bright development for future state high cross country and track programs. Steve talks of his moderate success in various sports in the junior high level, but he astutely noticed that he was usually leading the way when those squads did running drills in practice. So he decided to try running as a sport. What a great decision that was. Steve Gentry was blessed with a runner's body, a lean frame, and good lungs. But according to classmate and fellow runner Jack Walmer, Steve was among the hardest workers ever coached by legendary coach Jackson Horner. We were all doing Jackson Horner workouts, good tough workouts, but Steve ran every morning on his own, every morning. And Steve had a running mentality that was as solid as a rock. Steve would win 2 individual PIAA cross-country state championships for State High. In the PIAA track and field championships, he placed second and then first in consecutive year mile races, setting a state record in his 1965 state championship. He also placed second in the half-mile race and anchored a championship 4x800 relay team, which set a national high school record. Steve also placed second in the mile run in the 1965 Indoor National Championship at Madison Square Garden. After high school, Steve accepted a full scholarship to attend Villanova University, nationally recognized for outstanding track and field and cross-country teams. After a year, Steve transferred to Penn State and received a full scholarship there. Steve continued running at Penn State, earning 3 letters and dropping his mile time to 4:08. But other priorities captured his heart, and he focused on his future career in teaching and coaching. Steve graduated from Penn State in 1969. Also in 1969, Steve married Carol Long, and both were hired by State College High. She taught English. Steve taught social studies while coaching running sports. He was an assistant boys coach for 6 years, assistant girls coach for 3 years, and then head girls coach for 21 years. A perennial powerhouse in cross country, his teams had a stretch of 17 years during which they won 5 state championships and only twice finished lower than 4th place. He coached multiple individual and relay team state champs and medalists. In 1981, he coached the winning team in both the indoor and outdoor Pennsylvania Track and Field Coaches Association championships. Steve and Carol both retired from State High in 1999, and in 2018, they both were inducted into the inaugural class of the Maroon and Gray Society. Steve was inducted into the Pennsylvania High School Track and Field Hall of Fame class of 2005. He was also very active in other aspects of his sport. For 20 years, he coached at Penn State Track and Field cross-country summer camps. In 1995, Steve was an honorary referee at the Penn Relays Carnival. From 2001 through 2004, he officiated the Penn Relays Decathlon. Also in 2004, he was an assistant coach for the Under-23 USA national team. He led the Keystone State Games Torch Runners for 10 years and has been a guest speaker at countless track and field and cross-country camps and conferences. Steve and Carol still live in State College, but do a lot of traveling. Thank you for your great years as an athlete and coach, Steve Gentry. Now come and accept your induction into the Center County Hall of Fame.
I tell you what, one of the first things I remember as a kid is going and watching my dad play baseball. Actually, my dad and Uncle Dick Maurer. And I sat on the bench with those guys, and I was so impressed just by what was going on, actually. And I fell in love immediately, and it's carried on from there. I remember being home and having a ball and a glove, and I'd throw the ball over the arm of the couch and catch it diving over the arm. And I ruined the couch, but that's another story. And then actually the football came a little later. It'd be going to Bald Eagle games, and we'd play pickup smear. And that's how you learn to play it. And of course, my dad and mom both came from large families. And when we got together for a summer picnic or whatever, we'd play softball. Or for his fall, we'd play pickup football game. You know, my dad had 9 kids in the family. My mom had 8. And so I had the aunts, uncles, cousins all over the place. That's how I got started. I think about the people I grew up with and the friends I have, Randy Steimer, John Jones, Keith Bennett. Baseball was a subject, and that's what we played, and we had a great time doing it. And those friendships will last. We go out to dinner, we get together for picnics, we help each other out, and baseball was the core. And that still happens with the other people too. College, same thing, no different. I get together with guys I was teammates, classmates with at Juniata College. We play golf. We get together with their families and we do things together. It's just wonderful. And it's not so much the athletes, because they're great athletes. They're better people than they are athletes. Than being great athletes. It's just good people to be with, and that's what it's all about. First and foremost, I need to thank my mom and dad. My dad worked at Serial Copper and Brass. We also had a farm at home. Dad was working, I don't know how many hours a week, 100 hours probably. And mom was a taxi. She also cooked the meals, cleaned the uniforms, whatever. Also, I need to thank Keno Beezer, started Teenerleg. Actually talked my mom and dad into buying me spikes to play instead of sneakers. What a difference it made. But just a great guy. My coaches, I've always felt that I was at the right place at the right time, whether it be Coach Stoker, Coach Rhodes, Coach Murniak. Juniata was Coach Barrier, Coach Ash, Coach Rossi, Coach Rogish. Just wonderful people, and they genuinely cared about what you were doing. It wasn't about the sport itself; it was about everything else. It was important to them. And then finally, my wife. I think there's times where I said at Juniata College, I think she saved me. I met her January 26, 1980, and I've never regretted it. What a wonderful person. Well, first of all, I'm extremely honored to be inducted and humble. I think about the people before me, just at Bald Eagle. That's not even counting Penns Valley, Bellefonte State College, Phillipsburg area. Just the fact that I'm honored and to be recognized in the Hall of Fame is incredible. There's a ton of people that I need to thank. It's never about one person, and it's about everything else, and everybody that helped you get there. And there's so many people that I want to thank. I don't have time to thank them all, obviously. But first and foremost, it's a blessing. It's an honor. I feel extremely privileged. There's people that are waiting to get in that I need to try to open up the door for that to happen, just because there's some people out there that, like I said, I'm just humbled and honored to be elected.
Jeff Miles graduated from Bald Eagle Area High School in 1978. He is one of the most versatile athletes in BEA history, earning 9 varsity letters in 4 sports, 3 in football, 3 in baseball, 2 in wrestling, and 1 in basketball. As a senior football player, Jeff was a star running back and team captain for Coach Gowan Stoker. Jeff amassed incredible stats in the 8-3 season. He rushed for 1,720 yards, which is still the single-season rushing record at BEA 41 years later. That year, he was selected as All-Central Counties Conference, All-Big 8 Conference, and named First-Team All-State, as well as being named to the Big 33 team. Over his career, Jeff owned a spectacular 6.7 yards per carry average, with 26 touchdowns and 170 total points scored. In baseball, Jeff was equally prolific. As a senior, he was the team captain. Jeff was named All-Central Penn Conference, and he won the Burl Flick Award and the prestigious Jim Snyder Award. Jeff was recruited by Juniata College to play both football and baseball. He earned 4 varsity letters in football, and as a senior, he captained the team. Jeff led the squad in rushing as a junior and was selected as the most valuable player of the MAC Association East-West All-Star football game. He was named to the MAC All-Conference team for football 3 times and was the ECAC Football Player of the Week 5 times during his junior and senior years. On the baseball diamond at Juniata, Jeff's talent glittered even brighter. He earned 4 letters and was selected to the All-MAC team 3 times. In his junior year, he led the nation in hitting. He posted the highest batting average for all Division III players, hitting an incredible .509. He was selected as an All-American that year. In his senior year, he was chosen as the team's MVP. At the end of his senior year, Jeff received Juniata's prestigious Stan Mikkel Award, presented to the senior male athlete who has made the greatest contribution to Juniata athletics. In 1995, Jeff was part of the inaugural class elected into the Juniata College Hall of Fame. Then in 2012, Jeff was selected for the MAC Association All-Century team in baseball. Jeff graduated from Juniata in 1982, majoring in geology with a teaching certificate. In 2004, he garnered a master's in education from Penn State. Aside from college play, Jeff played American Legion baseball and was named to the East-West All-Star team in both years. He played for Elmira in the New York Penn League for 2 years after the season ended at Juniata. He was invited to the Minnesota Twins training camp. Jeff starred in the Center County Baseball League for Port Matilda for 18 years, ending with a career batting average of .401. Jeff coached football and baseball at Juniata in 1986 and 1987. He was a teacher at Huntington from 1989 through 1995, where he coached football, wrestling, and softball. He then moved to administration for 24 years before returning to his alma mater, Bald Eagle area, in 2013, where he still serves as the superintendent of schools. Jeff and his wife Lisa live in the Julian area, and they have 2 daughters, Lindy and Kelsey. Congratulations on your excellence in your 2 great sports, Jeff Miles, and welcome to the Center County Hall of Fame.
My early years of sports were spent in unorganized neighborhood pickup games. I remember playing baseball almost every day at the Bellefonte Little League field. I was interested in baseball and got on an organized Bellefonte Little League team, the Bellefonte Lions. After Little League, I played Teen League baseball. I was a very versatile player, being able to play many different positions. From early on, I was interested in sports just because I liked them. When I graduated out of the St. John's Catholic School in 8th grade and enrolled in the Bellefonte Middle School in 9th grade, I started to play organized football with equipment, something that we definitely didn't have in our pickup games. As a 9th grader, I played JV football and JV and varsity baseball. I found satisfaction in my sporting career by playing both baseball and football. Some of the teams that bring back fond memories are my Little League All-Star team. When I was 12, we didn't win much, but we had a good time. The 1966 Teen League All-Star team from Bellefonte, we were the Pennsylvania State champs. The 1967 Bellefonte High School baseball team were the district champs, and that was a big deal because we played the finals at the Penn State University baseball field. Football teams include from Bellefonte the 9-1 high school football team, 1966. The 1967 team was 7-2, but the big team was the 1968 undefeated, untied football team that was Western Conference champions. I was chosen to play in the Big 33 game. I received a full scholarship to play football at West Virginia University and played in the 1972 Peach Bowl in Atlanta. First of all, I'd like to thank my mother and father, who were sports parents, my brother Tony, who nominated me for this honor, and my wife Marcia. Specific thanks goes to Bill Luther, Jim Williams, and Dick Bell, a three-man Bellefonte High School varsity coaching staff. I'd like to give a shout out to Ron Bracken for all the wonderful articles that he wrote on the undefeated football team, and I would like to thank all the members and people associated with the 1968 Bellefonte High School undefeated football team. From WVU, I'd like to thank Jim Carlin for recruiting me, Bobby Bowden, who took over as head coach and took a bunch of 18 to 21-year-olds and pointed us in the right direction. I'd like to thank the Bellefonte School District for establishing the Sam Nastis Defensive Award that's given out every year to the outstanding defensive player. And I'd like to thank all the Center County Hall of Fame voters for giving me this honor. I have many feelings on being inducted into the Center County Hall of Fame. I am humbled, honored, and blessed to be in the 2019 class. This is such an incredible honor and privilege, an accomplishment I will cherish for all time. I am honored to be joining the other well-deserving members of this class. I appreciate the fact that I am included with the many great athletes and coaches that come out of Bellefonte, let alone Center County. This recognition of my accomplishments on the football field is very special to me.
Sam Fussy Nastis grew up in Bellefonte. His focus as a youth was baseball when he was a member of the Bellefonte Teener League state championship team, which beat Easton in the state finals to win the title. He continued baseball into high school, and the talent-laden Red Raiders won the Central Penn Championship, then bested Kerwinsville by a 2-1 score to win the District 6 baseball championship in 1968. But football was clearly Sam's sport. In junior high, he played in the offensive backfield. As a fullback in 9th and 10th grade, he was the rushing leader for the junior varsity squad. As a junior, in preseason practices, Sam often thought he would like to be in the offensive backfield, but after I got my first taste at linebacker, I knew that's where I wanted to be, Sam said. I think probably I like it most because you can really hit and get into the thick of things. It would be a total understatement to say that Sam Nastis hit and got into the thick of things when he played linebacker. He completely disrupted the offensive squad. Many called Sam the best tackler in the state. Others said he could cover short passes better than any other high school linebacker. Sam had the knack for coming up with a big play when it was most needed. His statistics in his senior year prove out these claims. In just 9 games, Sam made 62 solo tackles, 76 assists, intercepted 5 passes, and recovered 4 fumbles. A rival coach in high school who had just seen his team wiped out by the Raiders summed it up best. I knew it was going to happen after the very first play, the coach sighed. We put our best lineman on Nastis, and Nastis blew him back 4 feet. I knew right there we were in for a long night. Hailed by his own coach, Hall of Famer Bill Luther, as the finest high school linebacker he'd ever seen, in 1968, Sam helped spark the Red Raiders to their first undefeated, untied football season in 71 years. Sam was a co-captain of that 9-0 team, which won both the Western Conference and Central County's conference titles. Accolades poured in after the 1968 season. Sam was first team All-Center County Conference, first team WFBG TV All-Star Football Team, first team All-State Guard on both the AP and UPI teams, and he was named to the Big 33 team. Sam was also named to the Scholastic Magazine All-America High School Football Team, and he was on the honorable mention list for Sunkist's Prep All-American Football Team. Sam received a full scholarship to attend West Virginia University and play football under head coach Jim Carlin in his first year, then for Coach Bobby Bowden for his last 3 years as a Mountaineer. He played from 1969 through 1972, playing in the Peach Bowl in 1972 in Atlanta. After college, Sam coached at the perennially tough DeLone Catholic High School in southern Pennsylvania from 1973 through 1977. Then went to Bald Eagle area from 1977 through 1980 before retiring as a coach. Sam continued to teach at BEA until he retired in 2011. Sam and his wife Marcia still live in Bellefonte. Thank you, Sam Nastis, for the great memories of great seasons for Red Raider football. And congratulations on your induction into the Center County Hall of Fame.
My start in the sport of baseball was my father was a professional baseball player for a while, coached in the county ball for a long time, managed, and he used to spend time with my brother and I playing catch, hitting fungos in the backyard. That was my initial start. And at age 4, 5, and 6, back then, you know, you had a little bit of ability. I mean, you could play catch ground balls and so forth. From there, my first organized team was the Port Matilda Little League. I played there from 9 to 12, 4 years, for Mr. Ziegler, who was the principal of school, and I also played for him in 9th and 10th grade at Port Matilda. Okay. After Little League, I went to Unionville for 3 years for junior ball, high school ball in 9th and 10th grade at Port Matilda. Then the jointure started, and I went to Bald Eagle area in 11th grade, and I played for Doc Etters. There were many, of course, but the most satisfaction I got was with the people that I worked around, the other coaches, the kids I coached, the associations I made with all those people, working around people that I enjoyed being around. I got the satisfaction of playing ball at Penn State right out of high school. That was another big accomplishment for me. To the Center County Hall of Fame, I would have to thank my brother Jay, my long-time friend Ron Bracken, who actually nominated me, and I probably wouldn't be here if it wouldn't have been for his nomination. Okay, I'd like to thank all my assistant coaches at Bellefonte, Denny Leathers, Ralph Gray, and Ralph Gray actually wrote a book about Bellefonte baseball when we coached together. He was my assistant for 17 years and wrote a book, Robbie's Raiders. It'll be on display. And Ralph, tremendous guy, good teacher, great coach, and even more so than that, a great friend. Okay, we had spent a lot of time together. I'd like to thank all the coaches that I played for. I still remember all their names, things like this, you know. All those people were instrumental in me getting to where I got. And last but not least, I want to thank my family for all their support and the way they followed me in my career. They're very supportive. I want to thank my wife, Linda, and my children, my grandchildren, and I now have a great grandson, okay? So I'm a great grandfather. To me, to be nominated and elected into the Hall of Fame is such an honor and a humbling experience, you know? I never imagined anything like this happening to me. I knew a lot of people in the other 2 previous Hall of Fames, but it was such an honor, something that I'll never forget. A big part of my life now is a lot of people ask me about it once they saw that I was elected. So I shared that with those people, but it's just a great honor to be in something like this.
Don Robbie Robinson was born in Phillipsburg with a baseball pedigree. His father, Jay, played in 1948 as a minor league catcher in the St. Louis Cardinals organization and continued to play ball with Port Matilda in the Center County League. Jay was a player-manager in 1948 when his son Robbie was the bat boy for the Porters, who won the league championship. Robbie began playing baseball at age 6 in the Port Matilda Little League. As a teen, he played junior league baseball in Unionville and Tyrone. Robinson earned 2 letters in baseball at Port Matilda High School in 1955 and 1956. Then in 1957 and 1958, he earned 2 more as a second baseman playing for Coach Doc Edwards in the newly formed Bald Eagle Area District. He played for the Penn State varsity from 1959 to 1962, winning letters as a starter at third base in 1961 and at second base in 1962. Coach Joe Bettig batted Robbie second in the lineup because of his ability to get on base and sacrifice bunt. He played errorless baseball for the Nittany Lions. Robinson graduated from Penn State in 1962 and was hired at Bellefonte, where he taught phys ed and science while coaching basketball. He became the head baseball coach at Bellefonte in 1964, and the Raiders promptly won the league championship. Robbie was head baseball coach at Bellefonte High School from 1964 to 1981. During his 18 years as head coach, his teams won 7 Central Penn League titles and 4 District 6 championships, compiling an overall record of 199 wins, 93 losses, and 1 tie. The 1977 Red Raiders baseball team had the distinction of playing in Pennsylvania's first PIAA State Baseball Championship game. After a year sabbatical, Robbie returned to Bellefonte as an assistant coach to Hall of Famer Denny Leathers from 1983 through 2000. Robbie's Raiders, a book by Ralph Gray chronicling Don Robinson's coaching career at Bellefonte Area High School, was published in 2018. Robbie played for years in the Center County Baseball League. He pitched for Port Matilda in 1961 and led the league in hits and doubles. In 1965, Robbie played on a Tyrone team that won the Altoona Greater City League. In 1967, he joined the State College County League team, and the talent-laden squad won 4 straight championships in his 4 years with the Collegians. Playing for Bellefonte in a 1980 game against State College, Robbie, Greg Brown, and Denny Leathers all hit home runs in the same inning. The Bellefonte Governors won the league championship in 1982 and 1984 with Robinson. In 1985, the Governors defeated Howard in the semifinals 6-5 on Robbie's home run in the bottom of the 8th inning. 1988 was the final baseball season in the Center County League for Robbie. He was 48 years of age at the time, but teammate Ward Whitehill was still pitching at age 53. In his 34 years in the County League, Robbie played with or against guys he competed with, coached with, or coached at Bellefonte High School in his 36 years as the head coach and an assistant to Denny Leathers. Robbie and his wife Linda live in Bellefonte and have a son, John, daughters Julie and Jody, and 4 grandchildren. You've been a great baseball figure all of your life, Don Robinson. Now please come forward and accept your induction into the Center County Hall of Fame.
Well, I played 4 years in Little League for Decker Motors. My manager was Johnny Drojan. Then Glenn Smith started a wrestling program in Bellefonte, and at that time there was no elementary or junior high programs. So shortly after he started the program, I went out and wrestled with the varsity, trained with the varsity guys. It was called the old elementary school. It was elementary school across from what is now the middle school. It was an old armory in Bellefonte. And the gym was, we had 3 mats and the floor was covered from one end to the other. They were horsehair mats. And so you got a real indoctrination in the sport by doing that, wrestling on those things. In both sports, watching kids progress from beginner to, in wrestling, to district champions or state champions, or just seeing them improve from day one to the best of their abilities when they were seniors. Watching little leaguers start at 9 years old, can't throw or catch too well. They get better, they get their first hit. Maybe they get in a home run or make a nice play. And that's always been, sure, I wanted our team to win every game. But watching them improve and watching them grow, and you make friends with young kids. They don't know how to lie to you yet. Most of the parents are just glad that their kids are in organized sports. They're learning discipline, which a lot of parents would tell me, you're more disciplined, you discipline them more than we do, and they listen to you. I was old school. Hustle, do what I say when we do it, and if we don't do it right, we'll do it till we get it right. But I was having a good time. I felt lucky to be able to coach Little League Baseball and start an elementary program at Bellefonte and watch them grow. And at that time, I had kids from all 4 schools. It was the only program. Well, I want to thank my mother and dad, and my older brother Alan, and my older sister Helen. Every Little League game I coached, every wrestling match, I was in the band and the chorus. And there was a certain place they parked the car up on the hill in the Little League. They built a swing up there for the grandparents of Bellefonte Little League, from my mother and dad. This is quite an honor, something that I never expected, something I never did any of these things to get an honor like this. I'm humbled by it. There's a lot of outstanding people already in this Hall of Fame, and to have my name included is just quite a super honor. But I've made friends with kids that were 9 through 12-year-olds, and they're all grown up now. That thrills me to death. There's no other way to put it.
Aside from his family, Andy Thal had 3 loves growing up in Bellefonte: wrestling, baseball, and the band. He had nurturing parents who got Andy to any program in which he was interested. There was no elementary wrestling, but starting at age 7, Andy attended varsity practice, watching the instruction by legendary coach Glenn Smith and rolling around on the mat with the varsity guys. Mike Flanagan coached Andy in high school as he earned 3 varsity letters and was captain his senior year. There was no youth or junior high band, but Andy's ability as a drummer was noticed, and he became a member of the Bellefonte High School band in 6th grade and continuing through his senior year. He was an all-star catcher in baseball at all levels in which he participated. After graduation, Andy joined the U.S. Army in November 1959. While stationed in Germany, he joined the boxing team and was the 28th Battle Group champion and 24th Infantry Division runner-up. After his honorable discharge, Andy returned to Bellefonte, working as a technician at a local chemical lab. He later worked for North American Refractories, retiring in 2003. In the mid-1960s, Andy started an elementary wrestling program at the Bellefonte YMCA, the first organized elementary program in the county. He had wrestlers from all 4 schools and taught the fundamentals to prepare them for future competition. Many of his wrestlers had successful careers, some becoming district and regional champions. One wrestler became a 2-time state champion and an All-American at Penn State. Andy was involved in the Bellefonte Little League program for 35 years, coaching 8 first-place teams, 7 all-star teams, 2 district runner-up teams, and in 1988 he coached an all-star team that placed 4th in the state. From 1968 until 1970, he wrestled for and coached the Bellefonte YMCA men's team, which was made up of young men from all over the county. In 2 of the 3 years, Andy won the state championship at his weight. In 1968, Bellefonte won the team title, while Andy was named the tournament's most outstanding wrestler. Also in 1968, Andy was encouraged to become a PIAA wrestling official by Sam Markle, a dear friend, longtime official, and 2015 inductee into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. In a 20-year career, Andy had a busy dual meet schedule and numerous sectional, district, and regional tournaments. He worked 4 state championships and was selected to do the AAA finals in each year. Andy was considered to be one of the premier and most preferred officials for major dual meets and tournaments. He was regarded to be one of the finest referee mentors anywhere in Pennsylvania. After the 1988 season, Andy retired to follow his son Jim's high school wrestling career. In 1991, Jim won the 125-pound AAA state championship. Andy was named Bellefonte JC Man of the Year in 1988 for his many years of voluntary involvement with the town's youth programs, Little League Baseball, and wrestling. Andy later became the head coach of the Bellefonte Elementary Wrestling Program. He also served as a volunteer junior high coach and then a volunteer with the varsity team before retiring from coaching in 2012. Andy was inducted into the Bellefonte Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2004, and is now chairman of the Hall of Fame committee. Andy and his wife Denise live in Bellefonte and both still volunteer. Thank you, Andy Thal, for your dedicated work for your community. Now, please come forward to be inducted into the Center County Hall of Fame.
Well, growing up in Port Matilda, and I think it was an outstanding sports town. I mean, and we were always doing something, playing baseball, playing football. My parents, you know, I owe a lot to my parents. You know, my mom and dad. My dad was very athletic background. He coached basketball, coached football. He officiated, so I did a lot of traveling with him. And then, of course, having a brother. And I think probably the biggest thing I got started was the competitiveness, you know, that we had, you know, in the family. You know, with wrestling, let me just talk wrestling real quick. I mean, wrestling, Joe Humphreys. I mean, I never forget when I was in 6th grade, Joe started the elementary program there at Port Matilda. We finished up at the end of the week down at Baldigo, had a tournament, and I still got some great memories of that. And that kind of got me started into wrestling, and I mean, I loved that. And I had 1 year off because my dad and Joe kind of went at it a little bit. My dad was a basketball guy, and of course, Joe wanted me to wrestle, and in 8th grade I played basketball, and then Joe won the battle, and fortunately I got back out in wrestling in 9th grade, which was great. In football and baseball, I mean, living in Port Matilda during those 60s, it was great. I mean, you know, Ron Bracken, who's in the Hall of Fame, Ronnie and my cousin Jerry Spackman, they organized a lot of things. I mean, we were always playing football, pickup football, baseball, I mean, you know, all year round. We were always doing something. And you know, Jim Rudy, I owe him a lot of credit too. Jim Rudy was our baseball guy over there. So I think, like I said, you know, my contact with sports was a lot to do with where I grew up, the family, and all the people and contacts we had in that town. Well, I think, you know, if I look at football, I mean, the great satisfaction there is in high school, you know, winning the Central PA and, you know, playing for Coach Wilson, Al Wilson. And I think the satisfaction of, you know, people and friendships that you developed, you know, in all the sports that you're involved. Wrestling obviously was, going to the state championship, being Bald Eagles' first regional championship, I mean, that was exciting, and especially, people didn't expect you to get there, and so that was exciting. At the college level, being a 4-year starter, and playing for Coach Girardi, who really turned the program around, and then was able to coach. Next year will be starting my 46th year, and the number of championships, that we won there, and I've been involved with a lot of great people that, that I've enjoyed the success, and I love the experience that I've had. Well, number one, I have to thank God, for all the abilities and talent, and my parents, obviously, my brother and sister, my wife and the family. Obviously, I'd like to thank, you, Lloyd, for all the work that you've done in helping to make this happen. Joe Gastino, the SID. I'd like to thank, all my coaches throughout my career, especially Joe Humphreys, who's in the Hall of Fame here, and just an outstanding individual. He's like a second dad. Coach Girardi, who's like my second dad also, gave me the opportunity to coach and made football fun, and we had a great run there. All the assistants that helped there. My teammates and friends I developed over the years back here in this hometown, Center County. I'd like to thank also a lot of the players, and again, you're as good as your players. I mean, it takes a community to help you be successful, and I've been blessed. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of people help me to be successful, and Coach Clark, and also Lycoming College. Wow, that's what I'll say. Wow, I'm real extremely humbled, honored, excited to be inducted following the previous 2 classes. I was fortunate enough to be here for the first class. And a lot of these people I know, in stories, I was talking about Andy Thal, who's going in now. I can remember Ward Whitehill, who I remember playing baseball against him throwing. I was shaking in my shoes. Just a lot of great people. Ron Bracken, I got to thank him. Ronnie, the coverage he gave us, and I've been very blessed. And I said, I'm very excited your hometown. 21 years I spent in this area, and a lot of good friendships and people like yourself, and just great memories. And I love this area, and you got Penn State here, you have Bald Eagle, and Port Matilda. Those are 3 key places that really helped me a lot. So, very humble, and thank you very much. Honored.
Steve Weiser earned 12 varsity letters at Bald Eagle area as a 3-year starter in football, a 4-year starter in wrestling, and a 3-year starter in baseball. In football, he was a tough runner out of the backfield and a hard-nosed linebacker. A captain as a senior, he was in all Central Counties Conference and named to the WFBG All-Star team. In wrestling, he was a sectional, district, and regional champ as a sophomore, finishing the year as BEA's first state finalist. He was undefeated in dual meets as a junior and senior, winning the tough BEN tournament and sectionals as a senior captain. In baseball, Steve was a catcher and third baseman for a team that went to districts. He won the coveted Jim Snyder Award in his senior year of 1970. Steve was recruited at Lycoming College and was a 4-year starter in 2 sports. In football, Steve was in all Middle Atlantic Conference in his last 2 years and selected as the homecoming game MVP both years. He was a captain as a senior, named honorable mention in the state, and 8 times he was ECAC Player of the Week. In wrestling, he started all 4 years, placing 2nd and 3rd in the MAC championship, then qualifying for Division III Nationals as a senior. He graduated in 1974 with a BA in political science. Right out of college, Coach Frank Girardi hired Steve as a defensive coach. 46 years later, Steve is still on the job and a coaching legend, some say more than a legend. He was the architect of a defense that changed the fortunes of the football program in the 1970s before presiding over a damaging defense that has won 15 MAC titles in the last 40 years. Steve currently is the assistant head coach and co-defensive coordinator. He began as an assistant, working with linebackers before being promoted to defensive coordinator in 1977. Steve helped lead the Warriors to the #1 national ranking in total defense twice during his tenure and his teams have also posted nationally leading numbers in rushing defense 3 different years and scoring defense in 1999. During his years, the Warriors have posted a record of 327, 149, and 5, 8 undefeated seasons, 23 MAC championships, 12 NCAA playoff appearances, including 2 trips to the national title game. His defense topped the MAC 18 times and has posted a total of 66 shutouts. In 2018, Steve coached 2 all-conference selections, as the defense had 3 all-conference picks and paced the team to a MAC Centennial Bowl Series appearance. The Warriors led the MAC in scoring defense for the 3rd straight year in 2013, also topping the league essentially in every defense, rushing defensive category. His defense led the MAC in scoring defense in 2012, as the Warriors featured 8 all-conference players on the defensive side of the ball and 4 all-region selections. In 2011, he helped mentor a brick wall of a defense that paced the Warriors, leading the MAC in nearly all categories and finishing in the top 10 in the nation in no less than 6 defensive categories. Along with coaching, Steve organizes football's annual golf outing and ad sales for the Game Day program. He serves the community in a number of service and charitable events. In 1987, he was inducted into both the Bald Eagle Wrestling and BEA Football Halls of Fame. In 2018, he received the prestigious Ray Key Sports Award in Williamsport, and this past winter, he was inducted into the District 6 Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame. Steve taught at Williamsport Area High School from 1974 until retiring in 2006. He resides in Williamsport with his wife, Pam. Thank you for your great years as a coach and still continuing, Steve Weiser, and welcome to the Centre County Hall of Fame.
When our class, the class of 1964, entered Bald Eagle High School, I kept hearing about somebody named Mike Kondo from Howard racing around, and I really officially didn't meet him for a couple of years, actually until we were about 14 and class officers. But I knew about him and how he was burning up the football field, and they'd say, oh, Mike did this, at the Howard playground, all of this stuff about him. But he was a people magnet. I mean, kids wanted to be around him. He was so happy from then until the day he passed away. He was just a happy person, loved life, and loved sports with his whole heart. But people and relationships were key in his life. Without a doubt, he would say opportunities. His beautiful athleticism afforded him his college education and paved the way for a rich and most wonderful life, filled with humorous and wonderful stories. And he not only knew about athletes, he followed their lives, deep into them. Great early admirer of women's sports, followed that as well. So he was my sports trivia man. I still talk to him at night, ask him sports questions, read the sports page to him, because he lived every sport, not just football. I mean, he really truly did. And his very favorite boxer was Muhammad Ali. And on the morning of one of his surgeries, his brain surgery, after we prayed together, he looked at me and he said, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." Well, first and foremost, I'm certain that he would thank the family members involved who initiated this current process. Todd Warner, our firstborn nephew, and Paul Hawes, my brother-in-law. And beyond that, there would be a stream of coaches that were instrumental. The number one that stands out was Baxter Weber from Howard, who was his Little League coach. And he felt that Baxter Weber really created the athlete, molded the athlete with a code of conduct which carried throughout his life. And all of his high school coaches, everybody along the way added to that. But there again, Murray Warmath had some of the same traits as Baxter Weber. And of course, Michael, and he followed the greats. Michael's greatest coach of all time was Vince Lombardi. And Warmath had coached with Lombardi. In fact, one of my nephews, to this very day, calls my husband, instead of Uncle Mike, he calls him Vince, because Uncle Mike taught him the whole philosophy about Vince Lombardi. So the stories are just very rich and wonderful relationships. Well, it's like frosting on the cake of a great person. My husband was the most humble man, filled with humility. It was one of his most beautiful gifts. Not even his own son. In all the years of our marriage, we never heard this man brag about his sports prowess. And in the conversations out in the waiting room, people there felt the same way. So it's just a great tribute and honor for a man who loved all sports, followed them forever.
Mike Kondo grew up in Howard, a community he loved, his own special place with lifelong friends and memories. People realized early that Mike was a gifted athlete. He played in Little League and dreamed of being a New York Yankee. However, a different game would become his signature sport. When he entered Bald Eagle Area High School, his athletic potential came into full bloom. While still in junior high, every BEA coach knew he was the athlete they wanted. Mike would go on to win medals with the District 6 and PIAA track and field championships and earn 9 varsity letters in football, basketball, and track. On a September Saturday in 1961 at Bald Eagle Nittany, sophomore Mike Kondo's first varsity touch was a kickoff return for a touchdown, the first of his BEA record 42 TDs. The Eagles finished 1962 under first-year coach Ron Signorino, a best-ever 7-1-1. That season, Mike had one of the best games of his career as BEA beat Chief Logan 34-15. He later learned a University of Minnesota recruiter was at the game. In Mike's senior 1963 season, BEA finished at 8-0-1, the only blemish a 26-26 tie, played against also unbeaten Chief Logan in front of 6,000 fans at Wingate. Mike was the greatest player on BEA's greatest team as the Eagles beat Lock Haven for the first time in school history. BEA beat county rivals State College and Bellefonte as Mike scored every Eagle touchdown in those battles. Mike had narrowed his college choices to Kentucky or Minnesota, but he was very dismayed by the racial segregation and hostilities he saw at Kentucky during his recruiting visit. Coach Signorino reminded Mike that Minnesota was recruiting several Pennsylvania players and wanted him. That sealed the deal, and Mike committed to the Gophers. Through his dreamlike BEA career, Mike focused more on a special someone than on sports. His biggest fan then, and for the rest of his life, was Patricia Hoover, a beautiful red-haired classmate he met when they were both 14. Pat shared Mike's dream when he was the first BEA player named to the UPI and AP All-State teams, along with the Big 33 team. Mike played an outstanding game in the Big 33 as PA beat Texas. At Minnesota, his college football future would be as defensive back and return specialist. While flying to California for the 1965 season opener against powerful Southern Cal, Mike learned he would be starting. In the opening minutes of that game, he recorded his first collegiate tackle on Trojan Mike Garrett, who won the Heisman Trophy that season. Mike had marvelous stories about his 3 years as a starter. He fondly talked about the win over Ohio State and how his Gophers fared well against its biggest rivals, 3-0 against Iowa, and beating Michigan and Wisconsin twice. Before his 1967 senior year, Mike and Pat were married in Howard during the summer, and she returned to Minnesota with him. Mike believed his team would win the Big Ten championship, so he figured they would later have a belated honeymoon in Pasadena. The Gophers won a share of the title, but the Big Ten chose to send Indiana to the Rose Bowl. Indiana then visited Minnesota in the next to the last game of that season. The day before the game, Coach Murray Warmoth took his seniors to the press box and quietly watched the Hoosiers doing a stadium walkthrough. He pointed out they all wore sweaters with a huge Rose Bowl emblem. Mike said, "That was all we needed to see. We pounded them 33-7, but they went to Pasadena instead of us." Mike and Pat enjoyed returning to Minnesota in 2007 for the 40th reunion of the Big Ten Championship with his teammates and then 94-year-old Coach Warmoth. Mike Kondo passed away on his 70th birthday, October 5th, 2016. Pat and their son, Wells, are here today and are very grateful for this wonderful honor bestowed on BEA's legendary athlete from Howard. Please come forward and accept Mike Kondo's plaque and induction into the Center County Hall of Fame. Ed Drapshow grew up on the mountaintop, home of two small coal mining communities, Clarence and Snowshoe. His dream was always to be a professional ball player. While still several months shy of age 12, he pitched 5 innings for the Clarence American Legion baseball team against older kids on his last day of the 1947 season, when he was actually the team mascot and bat boy. 4 years later, he was pitching for Clarence against Pottstown in the best-of-3 Pennsylvania American Legion State Championship Series at Allentown. In front of a number of Major League scouts, Pottstown eliminated Clarence post 8-13 as Ed's teammates managed only 1 hit that day. Better days lay ahead for the southpaw pitcher who attended Snowshoe High School and then Bellefonte High School. He pitched in the Center County League before moving on to amateur ball in Canada. His next stop was Penn State University, where his dazzling 3-year varsity record showed 29 wins and 3 losses. His 12-0 record and 1.52 ERA in his senior year of 1957 sparked the Lions to a runner-up finish, losing 1-0 to California in the College World Series in Omaha. Often referred to as the top collegiate pitcher in the East, Ed Drapshow earned his first-team All-America honors to cap the 1957 season. Other top efforts turned in by Ed included a no-hitter against Bucknell and a 19-strikeout effort against the University of Pittsburgh. The 1957 season included a 17-game winning streak for the Penn State team and a 22-2 overall mark. Ed teamed with fellow Hall of Famer Cal Emery from Center Hall as the duo won all 22 games for the Nittany Lions that year. Penn State won 2 games and the NCAA District II championship at Brooklyn's old Ebbets Field to advance to the College World Series. Ed eventually signed a pro contract with the Cleveland Indians organization and began as a starter and reliever in the Eastern League with Reading. His next stop was at Class AA Mobile as a reliever. As a AAA pitcher, Ed faced eventual Hall of Famers Ernie Banks and Al Kaline in spring training. He also spent 4 years in the White Sox minor league organization. In his 8-year minor league career, Ed posted a 50-win, 40-losses record, appearing in 282 games with Cleveland Indian and Chicago White Sox affiliates. He amassed 341 strikeouts in the 794 innings he pitched and threw 9 complete games, including 3 shutouts. Following retirement from playing ball in 1964, Ed and his wife Millie returned to Center County, where Ed taught at Penns Valley High School for 29 years. Ed passed away in March of 1997, and Millie died in May of 2017. The Penn State Baseball Club now annually presents the Ed Drapshow Award to the team's most improved player at its annual banquet. Ed is represented here today by his son, Jeff Drapshow. Please come forward, Jeff, and help us as we welcome your father, Ed Drapshow, into the Centre County Hall of Fame. In 1946, when Glenn Smith introduced wrestling to Bellefonte, 2 students showed up in the gym. One of them was Tommy Riglin. In the 1947-48 season, the Bellefonte team was 11-0-0. Sophomore Tommy Riglin wrestled tough for the Raiders all year. Through hard work and dedication, he posted 20 straight wins, winning the district championship, then progressing to states to become Bellefonte's first PIAA state champion. At states, Tommy beat Jones of Bedford, Snively of Abington, and Stubblebine of Plymouth to win the state title. In addition to his being Bellefonte's first state champion, he was also the first underclassman in District 6 history to claim a state championship. Tommy finished with a 32-5 career record at Bellefonte and was a leader on Glenn Smith's great teams. He had some difficulty keeping a place in the potent Red Raider lineup in his junior and senior years, owing to a spectacular group of lightweights on those squads who went on to win several state championships. Masulo, Adams, Musser, Moyer, and Fornicola, who did not win a state title but won a national title for Penn State. Tommy then enrolled at Franklin and Marshall College. He participated in the John Marshall Law Club, the Politics Club, the Newman Club, and Arnold Air Society. Tommy wrestled at 137 pounds in his sophomore and junior years, then at 147 as a senior. His career record at Franklin and Marshall was 9-5-1, and his team was 21-7-1 in those 3 years. He only participated in 3 bouts as a senior before being sidelined with an injury. He also ran cross-country and track in each year for the Diplomats. When F&M wrestled against Princeton during his sophomore year, Tom won his bout, but as an interesting side note, one of the Princeton wrestlers was Donald Rumsfeld, who later went on to serve as the Secretary of Defense under Gerald Ford and again under George W. Bush. Against the Navy that same season, Tommy was one of the only 2 from F&M to win bouts. Tommy graduated in 1954 and collected a B.A. in history. After college, Tommy served in the U.S. Air Force, becoming a pilot, rising to the rank of 2nd lieutenant. During that time, he was accepted to law school at Notre Dame. While still in the prime of his life and not far removed from his wrestling days, Tommy Riglin was tragically killed in a military aviation accident in 1957. Following his death, Bellefonte coach Glenn Smith wrote, "Tom possessed the sort of character every man would want for his own son." Tommy's college coach lauded Tom's strength of character and courage. In light of his short but distinguished career and unfortunate untimely death, Tommy Riglin left a remarkable legacy for his sport in both Bellefonte High School and Franklin and Marshall College. F&M established an annual scholarship fund named after Tommy Riglin and teammate Art Health, which rewards athletes who demonstrate leadership, athletic achievement, respect, and most importantly, kindness. We welcome Tommy Riglin into the Centre County Hall of Fame in the Legend category, and now ask Tommy's niece, Rosalie Bailey, to come forward and accept his plaque.